So if you make anything with a digital component and you sell it in the European Union, your world is about to get a major update. Let's dive right into the new EU Cyber Resilience Act. This is your guide to what you need to know and, more importantly, what you need to do.
You know, for a long time, the EU market was kind of like a patchwork quilt when it came to cybersecurity rules, different everywhere you looked. Well, this new regulation changes all of that. We're talking about a single, unified legal framework for cybersecurity that covers a huge range of products across the entire EU. The goal? Simple. Make everything safer for everyone.
All right, here's the game plan. We're going to break this down into 6 key parts. We'll start with why these rules are even a thing, then we'll get into the rulebook itself. After that, we'll walk through exactly what you have to do, from design to support after the sale, all the way to mandatory reporting. And finally, we'll cover the very, very high stakes of getting this right. So let's kick things off with the big one. Why now? Why is the EU rolling out such a massive piece of legislation? Well, it all boils down to the reality of today's digital world. Honestly, the best way to get the why is to go straight to the source. The Act itself points out 2 massive problems in the market. First, products hitting the shelves with all sorts of vulnerabilities. And second, a totally inconsistent and often non-existent approach to security updates. This Act is the EU's direct answer to that problem. And the EU's answer to this whole problem? It's the Cyber Resilience Act, or the CRA. The easiest way to think about it is as a brand new rulebook. It creates a whole set of new responsibilities for anyone making, importing, or even just distributing digital products in the EU. Okay, first things first. You're probably wondering, does this even apply to me? Well, the answer is probably in this key phrase, product with digital elements. And let me tell you, the official definition is incredibly broad. We're not just talking about a physical gadget. It covers the software inside it, any cloud services it connects to, and even individual little components sold on their own. So, just how wide is this net, really? Well, it's huge. It's everything from pure software and operating systems to the smart door lock on your house and the baby monitor in the nursery. Connected toys, fitness trackers, the Wi-Fi router in your living room. Yep, they're all covered. Bottom line, if your product has a chip and it talks to a network, you really need to be paying attention.
All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty. What do you, as a manufacturer, actually have to do? We'll start with phase 1. Everything you're responsible for before your product ever makes it into a customer's hands.
Think of this as your new ground zero. The Act is crystal clear on this point. Before you can sell your product, you must carry out and formally document a thorough cybersecurity risk assessment. This is absolutely not optional, and it's the foundation for every single security decision you make from here on out.
And that risk assessment, it's not just paperwork. It directly feeds into your next big job, which is meeting the secure by design requirements. This means your product has to ship secure right out of the box. It has to use things like encryption to protect data, and it needs to be hardened against unauthorized access. And here is the big one. You cannot launch it with any known exploitable vulnerabilities.
Now here's a crucial point. Your job isn't over once the product ships. The CRA makes it very clear that cybersecurity is a full lifecycle commitment. So let's talk about what you have to do after your product is out in the world. The law is super clear on this. You are legally on the hook to handle vulnerabilities effectively for the entire life of the product's support period. This isn't just a friendly suggestion, it's a hard requirement. You've got to have a plan, and you've got to follow it. So what does an effective plan actually look like? Well, the Act basically gives us a checklist. You need a way to identify and keep track of all your components. Something like a software bill of materials, or SBOM, is perfect for this. When a vulnerability pops up, you have to fix it without delay. You also need a public policy for disclosing vulnerabilities, a secure way to get updates to your users, and you have to push those updates out quickly and for free. And here's a really interesting detail that could change how you push updates. The Act says that whenever it's technically possible, you have to separate your security updates from your feature updates. What does that mean? It means your customers shouldn't be forced to accept a bunch of new features they might not want just to get a critical security patch that keeps them safe. Okay, pay close attention to this next part because for a lot of manufacturers, this is a huge change. The CRA brings in some very strict, time-sensitive, and mandatory reporting duties for certain security problems. Let's look at the clock. And when we say the deadlines are tight, we mean really tight. If a vulnerability in your product is being actively exploited out in the wild, the clock starts ticking immediately. You have just 24 hours to give an early warning to the EU authorities.
Then you have to follow up with more details within 72 hours. And finally, once you have a fix, you've got 14 days to submit a final report. These are not suggestions. Your internal processes have to be ready to move this fast.
Okay, so we've gone through the what and the how. Now let's talk about the consequences, because the stakes for getting this right and the penalties for getting it wrong are absolutely massive. You know that CE mark you see on products? It's always meant safety. Well, now it means cybersecurity too. When you put that CE mark on your product, you are making a formal public declaration that it meets all the requirements of the Cyber Resilience Act. It's basically your seal of approval.
But what happens if you don't comply? The fines are staggering. If you fail to meet those essential cybersecurity requirements, you could be looking at a fine of up to 15 million euros.
Or 2.5% of your company's total worldwide revenue from the previous year, and they'll pick whichever number is higher. The message from the EU couldn't be clearer. Cutting corners on security is just not a viable business strategy.
But at the end of the day, this is about so much more than just dodging fines. It's about earning your customers' trust and making sure your business is ready for a future where security is non-negotiable. So the final question I have for you is this: are your products and your processes truly ready for this new, more secure future?